Specialist with Concealment Woodworks here, concentrating today on the second rule of firearm safety. But let's of course review all three. Number 1, always keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. 2, always keep the finger indexed off of the trigger until ready to fire. And 3, always keep the firearm unloaded until ready to use. So what do we mean by finger indexed off the trigger? Well, some folks say, well, this is off the trigger and that's good enough. And I will argue that no, it's not good enough, because we want to make sure we have a heightened sense of awareness when it comes to safety. Indexing the trigger finger means putting it up here on the slide if you have a pistol. In this case, I have a airsoft pistol, and treating it as if it were a regular firearm. But having the finger indexed off of the trigger up onto the slide in this case is more important than just kind of casually setting it up here. Couple reasons for that. Number 1 is that there is a thing called sympathetic muscular response. So that if I were to, let's say, key in a microphone, as some individuals have done, if I key in a microphone here, I also happen to squeeze the trigger. And it'll happen that quickly and almost unconsciously. Another reason is if a person were to get startled, all of a sudden you jerk and you squeeze, because that is a natural reaction for some people to tense up in that manner. And also, just to make sure, if you stumble, if you fall, if you startle yourself in that manner, oops, I bumped my toe on a rock. We want to make sure we prevent those accidents. So we say finger indexed off the trigger until ready to fire. So one acceptable alternative to rule number 2, as far as keeping the finger indexed off of the trigger, as I'm doing now, is to keep your finger nowhere near the trigger. One acceptable hold is to hold it in a port arms manner as this, which of course my hand is nowhere near the area. Another one is to have a shoulder arms, as some shotgunners do perhaps, with the break apart action open, and they're holding it by one end or the other. The number 1 reason for doing that is because we want to make sure that we are communicating to other folks that we will not have negligent discharge with this firearm. Of course, we're still treating it as if it were loaded by following the 3 rules, but we're making sure everyone around us, as well as ourselves, know that we all know that this firearm will not go off unintentionally. Now, when it comes to drawing your pistol from either a paddle holster such as this, or from a Concealment Woodworks picture frame holster, as I have here in front of me, the rule still applies. We want to make sure you're training appropriately. So when drawing your pistol out of a holster from your person, again, make sure your finger is indexed off of the trigger before that pistol comes out of its retention. When it comes to the picture frame holster, as you're drawing the gun from going up the wall, you make sure that when you get your hand around it, you still practice keeping your finger indexed off of the trigger until you are ready to fire, until your sights are aligned with your target and you're ready to pull that trigger and send that projectile forward. Thanks again for watching. We hope that you'll have more opportunities to train well, train with others, and train often.